I call the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Look, I rise to take a brief call on the third reading to endorse the bill. To address a couple of points that the members made, I just make the point again. If there is a fear in respect of the future, maybe we should look at the past and look at fact and evidence and example. And it is right that the member, Mr Locke, raises these issues, but in the debate, I just note for the record, there has not been one example, one piece of evidence put forward showing where a serving police officer elected to a local authority has compromised his or her position, that of the department or that of the local authority. And I think we should be mindful in this place when we make these decisions. Often I suspect, to be honest, we're not on certain occasions, that we should deal with evidence example. And I say to Mr Locke, it is right that he raises the issue, but I say to him, live in hope, colleague, live in hope. Because I suspect that the people who are serving as both constabulary staff and in local authorities, we do have, the counterfactual is, stark and real and lively examples of where those 5 officers have acted absolutely appropriately, as far as I'm aware, in all circumstances in their dual role. So if we are after evidence to back up our argument, then that evidence stands before us. I note with interest that the Maori Party is opposing this bill. I will not deal with the notions that they put forward. To suffice to say that myself, my Labour Party colleagues and others completely distance ourselves from the language and the venom which was visited upon the New Zealand Police by Mr Harawira. The language and the venom. Again, I say to Mr Harawira, who's chosen not to take a call, that if there is example or evidence or case or allegation, bring it forward. But don't stand on the sidelines and throw horrific slogans and language at serving police officers, members of the public service and others, which are deeply offensive to members of our community because of historical events, deeply offensive, I think, to all members of the community. We distance ourselves, as other colleagues have, from those offensive remarks. And if that is the basis for opposing this bill, then I invite Mr Harawira and the Maori Party to look very carefully at the statements that he has made, because they appear, as he is a member of the Maori Party, to be representative of the party itself. Mr Speaker, I commend the bill to the House. I commend the serving members of the police force, one in my area, Councillor Bryan, who has that dual role. They do tread a very difficult path from time to time in managing those inherent conflicts around bylaws and various things. But as other speakers have said, lawyers, property developers, business people, the odd publican I'd wager too, who has stood and gained elective office, has also had to tread that path of managing conflicts of interest, as do all elected folk, including us in this chamber. And there are processes, there are safeguards, there are mechanisms like the Local Government Act, like the Office of the Auditor-General, like the Office of the Commissioner of Police, who can and are willing to deal with those to ensure there's transparency and integrity in that democratic process. But my plea to Mr Locke on these occasions is when he is making statements, let's deal with fact and evidence, not hyperbole and hypothesis. Let's deal with the fact and the evidence, and the truth is that since 1958, but I beg for somebody to provide evidence to the contrary, that serving officers who are elected officials have acted appropriately and have not crossed that line that Mr Locke fears. Sir, I commend, along with other colleagues, this bill to the House.